When it comes to the mental load, we want to consider this key piece in the overall functioning in our relationship, and that is around decision fatigue. Decision fatigue isn't just about being tired. Instead, it's about feeling overwhelmed by the constant barrage of decisions that need to be made. When your partner comes to you and says, "What's for dinner? What do we need for groceries? What are we doing for date night? What do you want to do for date night? Or what time do we need to leave for soccer? And what do I need to pack in the bag?" Now, so many couples get stuck in this tricky dynamic that we're going to talk about here. And I'm going to leave you with some scripts in terms of how you can change this dynamic. When decision fatigue sets in, it's not just about how you're making decisions, but it's also the negative impact on your relationship, on how you feel connected, on your intimacy overall. I like to remind couples that you cannot be intimate with another person. It's impossible to have sex when you're wearing a backpack of bricks. Each decision that you have to make is like another brick in your backpack. So let's talk about how you can start changing this pattern in your relationship. First, let's talk about awareness. This is awareness around the common dynamic that shows up for couples when it comes to decision fatigue and navigating the mental load overall. And that is around overfunctioning and underfunctioning in a relationship. Together, this starts to create more tension, resentment, and disconnection. The overfunctioner is someone who feels comfortable problem solving, fixing, and being the caretaker. While these are all great parts of someone, it also leads to deeper feelings of anger, resentment, and feeling alone in doing all of the things. The underfunctioner on the flip side is someone who might say that they don't know how to do something, or it's easier if you just make the decision. They allow other people to solve their problems. And while that position initially feels okay, underneath that, they often feel inadequate and they feel like they're failing. Looking at this cycle, we want to start changing how we show up in our relationship, which tackling decision fatigue is going to be one of those key changes. Now, if you are somebody who gets all of the questions to them, what we know is that the mental load is often higher for women. They carry more of the household, childcare, and relational and emotional tasks in a relationship. So, for you, if you're feeling that mental load is high and you're feeling that decision fatigue, I want you to consider how you respond to your partner in the moment. And then we're also going to talk about what you can do outside the moment. In the moment when your partner comes to you and asks you a question, you might consider stepping back and not being the fixer and the problem solver right away. Some of my go to responses sound like this: "You've got this. I trust your decision. I really need you to make this decision. And whatever decision you make, I'm not going to be upset about it." And that's a really important piece because our overfunctioners tend to be control appreciators as well, which is not a bad thing. This is something about you that has gotten you to where you are today. However, it's not always something that we want to tap into, which means letting someone else get to good enough with whatever is being done with a task. And the other piece here, when it comes to navigating this dynamic, is recognizing that you have been doing things for a really long time. Because of that, you've developed the skill, you know how to do it quickly. A lot of people will say it's just easier if I do it myself. And I challenge a lot of the women that I work with to acknowledge that in the short run, it is easier if you do it yourself. In the long run, you're building anger and resentment towards your partner. So you need to be able to give space and time for you to recognize that your partner has to uplearn with you when it comes to making decisions and completing tasks. One of my other favorite responses to a partner is to be able to say, "I think that you are competent and I know that you're going to be able to navigate this. If you get stuck, come and ask me another question and I'll help direct you through this." You might also decide to have this conversation outside of one of these moments. First, labeling the dynamic that you're stuck in is a great way to deal with this. And then you also might say, "I'm going to give you these tasks," or you might label all of your tasks together and talk about which ones you need to offload to your partner. And then also say to them, "I recognize that I contribute to my frustration in our relationship by just making decisions for you. And actually, I would love for you to start doing more of this." Now, if you happen to be the underfunctioner in the relationship, if you're the one that asks all of the questions, I see you. I know for many, this comes from a well intentioned place. You're trying to consider, what does my partner want and need and desire? And how can I help get along with that? The challenge is to recognize that each time you do that, you minimize your own feelings of adequacy and competence, and you're also putting more weight on your partner. We don't want to add the bricks to the backpack. So, what can you do? First, you need to acknowledge that there are going to be mistakes along the way, and you need to give yourself a lot of permission with that. And if your partner is upset by the decisions that you make, let them be upset. You're still learning, and you need to give yourself permission to learn and also remind your partner to give you that permission to learn in this space. You might also want to spend some time asking yourself these questions, such as, what are you afraid would happen if you just made a decision without checking with your partner? You also might want to ask yourself, what would it be like for me to be in the lead role here and make this decision and ask my partner to come along with me? And I think when we can go inside ourselves and see what the answers are to those questions, we then might start to challenge some of those tricky beliefs that we hold. You are a competent individual, and it might take you some time to learn what it is that you need to learn to navigate some of these tasks. The key piece here is that you're probably going to feel discomfort, and we all feel uncomfortable at times, and you can also do it. Looking at the long term gain in your relationship by getting uncomfortable. I want you to remember that the overfunctioning and underfunctioning role is a common one for so many couples, and yet it breeds resentment and disconnection, and it impacts all areas of our life. Decision fatigue is one element that we want to address so that we can start feeling closer and connected with our partners.